As a disclaimer, I do not support nor condone the harassment of the creator because of personal opinions on their creations. These reviews are created for the purpose of giving my opinions on these characters, along with giving constructive criticism to help the creator in the future. As such, the level of artistic ability is not included in my review, and only the design and story of the character. Thank you very much.
It's about time you got this review out, you stupid boy. Now, what's up, guys? It's me, Zimzilla99, and today I will be doing a review that I should have gotten out a long, long, long time ago. But, thank goodness I'm getting it out now, and that is a double review of Azazel and Xenotyrannus. I'm going to be doing a re-review of Xenotyrannus, and I will be doing a review of Azazel, both of them by Team Dinosauria 21. And let's get into it. I should also take note that the original Xenotyrannus review that I had done, it was my first review of characters, and I think that this is a little background information. When I had done that review, it had been like around 30 minutes, and when I went to upload it, half of it got corrupted, and I got really upset because I tried to get as much information as I could back. It was all gone, and I didn't do scripts back then as well as I do now, so I didn't have all the jokes or any of the other information and how I had said it as well as I did originally. So I put together an angry review, and my thoughts still stood as they did, but it was just the review that was the final product was just a lot more angrier than the original one, which was 30 minutes of probably a little bit more colder analysis, which is what I plan to do here, depending on how long this review takes, as I'll be going over two characters and going into an in depth analysis of how to do villain characters in a sense, as well as just reviewing the characters in general. So, of course, I'll be doing Azazel first, as it's the new character I'm reviewing, and then I'll be doing a re review of the new Xenotyrannus. So, let's start off with Azazel's name. Alright, starting off with Azazel's name. Azazel, the name itself, comes from the Book of Enoch or the Book of Apocrypha and refers to Azazel, who is a Grigori or fallen angel. Another important text that the name does appear in is the Dead Sea Scrolls. For a fun fact, actually, the name has been used in Tekken, Grand Blue Fantasy, Heroes of Camelot, and Marvel, and a few other series that I probably won't get into. So, in terms of track record for the name being used, Azazel's a very common name for people who want to go with the demon-esque character. So keep that in note. If you want to make this character official or you wanted to publish it, Azazel is very common, and if not done properly, you don't make this character unique from others, he's not going to stand out. But it's not a bad name. I do like the name personally for characters. I wouldn't use it personally, but it's fine. Just be cognizant of the fact that it's a very common name for villain or demon characters. Now, let's go on into the rest of the bio that he had prepared for me. Now, the whole thing is titled The Devil Birthed from a Hero Demon God Azazel. I will stop right there and say that I know that when you're thinking of the character Azazel, of course Azazel comes from Judeo-Christian text. So because of that, for some context, a demon god doesn't make a lot of sense, as the devil himself in Judeo-Christian text is a fallen angel. So as such, he's technically an angel himself. So Satan's is a fallen angel, and everything below him is still fallen angels, as is stated in Judeo-Christian text that Satan took half the or a few score of the angels with him. So there's really technically no such thing as a quote unquote demon god. However, if you're going off Judeo-Christian text in your universe, if you're writing or altering facts about a certain religion, you need to make that explicitly clear to your audience, or otherwise that can be nitpicked or pointed out and it can ruin the mythos for people. Now, the the sheet has taglines, which are pretty much just quotes. You don't really need taglines. I think just describing the character's personality or how he acts around other people is probably a better way of describing him instead of using taglines. And this actually goes into the idea of creepypastas. With creepypastas, you don't really want to have like quotes that they have when they kill people. The same thing applies here. Gender, of course, is male. He's a darkened clone of C.J. McQueen, which was his Team Dinosaur 21 self-insert character created by Phobius. Yeah, Phobius. Um, that's fine. Technically, you should just say that could just be an origin. Honestly, you could put that as an origin and say that, oh, a darkened clone of so and so, instead of putting that under the gender part. Age unknown, being a half immortal demon god. Of course, I already stated with demon god. And age, just say unknown. If you write a good story and you say something's unknown, don't make it so ambiguous, but people do like mystery and people do like to think things for themselves. Height shows 8 feet 5 inches human form. I'm 12 feet xenomorph form, and so on with the Archosaur form. Xenomorph form. I'm just wondering. You mentioned that he has a xenomorph form. Of course, like this character isn't a quote unquote a official character, but when you use other properties, it doesn't. It shows that you aren't really able to come up with your own ideas. I know you obviously have a lot of ideas, but just staying away from established franchises when you're trying to make your own characters is the best way possible. Of course, you can have fun and stuff. That's fine, but like when you add things that really don't make a lot of sense when added, it dilutes the character a lot. Because when you add xenomorphs, you're thinking, wait, why does he have a xenomorph form? How exactly does a xenomorph form operate? Do xenomorphs have some kind of relationship with demons? Could xenomorphs impregnate demons? It just, when people start thinking about it deeper than you probably did when you did it, which is fine and stuff, but that's something important you should take into account. Ethnicity unknown. Well, I mean, he's a demon, so there wouldn't be really any reason to have ethnicity there. Occupation. You don't really need occupation either, really. I mean, of course, he's a universe destroyer, being a dark clone. Well, being a dark clone or isn't really an occupation. That's more of a state of being. And universal destroyer isn't really an occupation either. That's more a goal. And you say bases, and you mentioned a few of the bases: alternate universe, hell, dystopian universe, ruin Zoo City. And you mentioned Dragon Ball Super, which I'll get into Dragon Ball Super and your inspirations a little bit later. But in terms of bases, what you could do to help out your bases is trying to explain what makes each of these bases unique. Because you have 3 bases, what about them makes them unique, or are they all just different stations of power which have similar equipment or rituals done in them, or is there what about them makes them unique, or is there something that connects them all, or are they just seats of power that he uses to conduct certain actions? Just explain what why the bases are important. Affiliations are fine. It would be nice if there was a little bit more flavor text around these characters, like Phobius, unintentional creator. What was he trying to do in the first place? Xenotyrannus is his master. What's their relationship? And stuff of that sort. Foes is fine too. And you do mention allies, which, with allies, affiliations and allies are very similar. So any of the allies you could put into affiliation. So you could say affiliation, like certain character. Then you could put parentheses allies and then explain how they're allied and stuff like that. And foes, you really don't need to explain foes too much unless you want to say, oh, what's their ideals? Why are they fighting against these people? But allies, you need to explain a little bit better than foes because you need to explain these universes to your reader. Faction, supervillain, you don't really need faction either. Just the character's evil. And class, demon, god, warrior, don't really need a class either, because if it's a class, that means other people can ascend or become that. And if the character is supposed to be unique or not unique, you need to make that apparent instead of saying class, because it makes everything seem too video gamey. Personality, ruthless, merciless, sadistic. Instead of saying like certain traits, what you should do is type up a small paragraph describing his personality and what that character does, which displays his traits, like what does he do that shows that he's ruthless, how is he merciless, how is he sadistic. Instead of just putting those traits, actually show them or write about them so the reader can know what you're talking about. Transformations, xenomorph form, archosaur form, demon god form, golden rose form. Why is there so many forms? And I know that you have Dragon Ball Z as a big inspiration. The issue with Dragon Ball Z is that when Toriyama was writing about Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z, a lot of what he did was because of either his editors or him wanting to do his own thing. A lot of what Toriyama does isn't planned, and Toriyama is prophetically known for going off the seat of his pants and not having any idea of what he was doing before he started writing. Like, for example, Super Saiyan. Super Saiyan was created when Toriyama was not wanting to ink in Goku's hair, and he wanted to show Goku had an immense increase in power. So, different hairstyle. Oh, it's yellow and not black. I don't have to ink it in anymore. It saves time and money for me. Hey, that's how Super Saiyan was made. Goku not having a tail anymore. Oh, Goku's tail got in the way and I just didn't feel like drawing it anymore. Whoop, we axed his tail. There's a lot of things Toriyama did in his original works, and even in the scripts that he's doing for Super, which were to save time for himself and increase the longevity of stuff to the editors. Like, the Buu saga wasn't exactly planned, the Cell saga wasn't exactly planned because the original foes of the Cell saga were actually androids, which is why people talk about the Android Cell saga and interchange it, because 21 and Dr. Gero were originally supposed to be the villains of the Cell saga slash Android saga, but then they were like, oh, we need someone more terrifying, so then you got Cell. And then DBZ was supposed to end after the events of the Cell saga, and then they were like, Toriyama, keep making more stuff, and that's how we got the Buu saga. So that's an issue with transformations and a lot of transformations, because we got Super Saiyan grades 1, 2, 3, 4, which then became the Ultra Powered Super Saiyan, Ascended Super Saiyan, and then Super Saiyan 2 and all that. And then we got Super Saiyan 3, Super Saiyan 4, yada, yada, yada. It's kind of what you could call shonen power creep. It's that once you keep increasing the antes of your stories, you need to add new transformations because your old transformations don't work, because you're trying to display more power to your villains. However, being the fact that he is a villain, and he may be a reoccurring villain, but even with Frieza's case, Frieza had a bunch of transformations, but his powers pretty much stayed the same, and his transformations were pretty much for power and appearance. And his appearances were drastic, but they still kept within his design and color scheme. While you've got a Xenomorph transformation, which is drastically different from probably your Archosaur transformation, probably far different from your Demon God transformation, and your Golden Rose transformation. It's a whole different range of colors. And I know that, of course, Frieza became golden, but his golden form is just a recolor of his final form. There's not that much difference between golden form and final form. However, Golden Form and Final Form have so many years of difference between them, and they needed Frieza to get up to Super Saiyan God's power. So it's kind of like a kind of a giant ass spool, pretty much. That's the best way you can describe it. So I would say cut down on the transformations, have a specific transformation in mind, and of course it's all for fun. We all know that, but if you're trying to make the character more serious, dial back on the forms and make a centralized form which encompasses the aspects of this character. Or if we know that the Xenomorph form is smaller than the Archosaur form, just give him the ability to change in size. If you are concerned with, oh, I don't want this transformation to seem smaller than this transformation and blah 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 blah, just make him have the ability to shift in size when he transforms. That does solve a problem in some ways. And he also, for powers, has Forbidden Dark Magic and Corrupted Ki. When you're dealing with quote unquote magic works in so many different ways that you as a writer need to explain how your magic system works. And when you're adding ki is obviously a real life concept which was applied to Dragon Ball Z, but ki is essentially spiritual energy, but in other ways it acts almost similar to basic magic. However, how does this magic relate to this ki? You need to explain that, because then you're dealing with so many different systems of energy that it doesn't feel like it has any significance, and it's just jumbled words to us. Moving on to weapons and powers. Claws, teeth, spiked armor. Spiked armor isn't a weapon. You put that in the weapons section. Horns. Wings aren't exactly a weapon unless you're saying like sharp pointed wings on the design. Tail. Extreme melee and ranged fighter. That shouldn't be under weapons. That should be its own thing where it's like fighting style, if you want to have that as a subheading. Mind control, that's more of a power, that's under weapons. Fear energy, that should be under powers too. And also, is fear energy a type of magic, a type of key? What is fear energy? And then aura blades, are aura blades like a key blade? I didn't want to make a Kingdom Hearts reference, but yeah. Or is it a key blade? Is it a magic blade? But you need to explain that as well. And you also mentioned Dark Berserker boost under powers. What exactly is the Dark Berserker boost? We don't know that in this um, little article you have here. And half immortality. You also need to explain how half immortality works, because if you're immortal, means you can't die of natural causes. You're not invincible, but you can't die normally. So technically, he wouldn't even really be half immortal. If he can die or be banished or hurt in some way, he is, if anything, extremely durable. And lastly, you have a set of statistics. I don't really go into statistics because obviously it's for roleplay purposes, and people try not to make their characters overpowered. But the stats, I guess, are fine because he's a villain character. He's supposed to be challenging for the people you're roleplaying with. And that's pretty much all it is for the character little sheet on the side. I'll go into the design now. Now, moving on to Azazel's design. It's a basic humanoid shape. It looks like you have red armor around the top of the chest, shoulders, arms, and then bottom of the legs. He has 3 toes. He has 4 fingers, well, a thumb and then 3 fingers. Spikes around the shoulders, wings. The tail isn't there. The tail's retracted. Hair, horns. So basic technical demon human, but also the red teeth. And for design colors, it's primarily purple or a type of violet, as I can see with the horns on the head are a different shade of purple than the horns around the toes, fingers, arms and stuff. So like a violet, purple, red, and black. Those are pretty much the main colors. And then you have white for the hair, which is inverted from the black of your self insert. And there's obviously, I see these yellow stars around the shoulders. I don't understand why that yellow's there. It throws off the design, and it's also very distracting because unlike white's a calmer color, and white usually can go with anything. And it may stand out, but however, it's a distinction on the black. But the red with the yellow is very distracting, and it does sort of direct you to the shoulders. And even with their design too, they look like stars of David. If anything, make them black pentagram stars or purple pentagram stars, because the character's supposed to be a quote unquote demon, so you should change that from being a Star of David to a pentagram. And then there's the slash marks, which are from a cult in the universe. If anything, I would say try thinking of a different like logo design, because with slash marks you don't really know what the slash marks are for unless you read the text underneath the page. But it's fine, it's not bad, it's just could be better. And I don't really know whether or not the red parts are armor or is it like certain parts of the skin are just like that, but I assume it's armor based on its placement. And around the stomach area and lower rib cage, there should be armor that should line up down the chest towards where the abs are, because where the armor is located right now, all it's actually protecting is right below your chest. However, the bottom part of his rib cage and then his stomach area where all his guts are pretty much unprotected. So if anything of significant power that hurts him hits him there, that's pretty much the armor is doing nothing but protecting a little bit above where his heart is. However, his heart could still be pierced, his lungs, anything that's vital could still be pierced from lower than where that armor is placed. Shoulders are fine. Of course, I don't really comment too much on the art itself, like anatomy and stuff, but I would say work a little bit on the anatomy, but that's it. With the wings, I would say the wings are kind of proportional, a little weird because the membranes of the wings taper off a little bit too much. The membrane should taper off towards the back and not taper so thin, because that membrane, if it's supported by aerodynamics as well as how membranes usually work because of that style of wings, he wouldn't be able to fly. However, I assume it's because of key manipulation most likely, and the wings are there just for show. So I would say just for design's sake, change how the membrane, make sure the membranes actually attach more to the back instead of right up to the wings where the bones are itself. The spines and the wings are fine. Everything else is just fine. It's just little design nitpicks here and there. It's average. Now we're going to be moving on to Xenotyrannus, which is the Xenotyrannus re-review. Now, of course, Xenotyrannus is a demon god of chaos, while Azazel is just a demon god. I've already made my thoughts clear about the idea of a quote-unquote demon god. If anything, just call Xenotyrannus a chaos entity or entity of chaos or incarnation destruction or a demon of some kind, or you'll have to explain how your universe's demons work. But based on standard Judeo-Christian philosophy works, there is no such things as demon gods or chaos demons. Unless it's Warhammer. Glory be to the Emperor! But Xenotyrannus has 3 forms, aside from the original, which had a bunch of other forms. There is primarily these 3. The first form is Neodiabolus Animalis, and the character's a demon, however, he also has DNA from the trilopods from Godzilla Rulers of Earth, which had the ability to assimilate DNA into themselves to evolve. And the Neodiabolus, I'll just use the first part of the scientific name. Height is 85 meters, length 120 meters, weights 32,000 metric tons. And for abilities, he has the acidic blood, which he can shoot from his mouth and from his gills. That's fine. In terms of design overall, I'm just wondering. Well, actually, I'll get into the designs as a whole once I get through all their stats. Next is the Proto-Tyrannus Ultimus. Its height is 115 meters. Its length 160 meters. Its wingspan, now it has wings, is 120 meters. Weight is 65,000 metric tons. And for abilities, it can now fly, become a mist-like substance, and atomic micro-oxygen breath, because in his story he fights Godzilla and destroy and assimilate some of their DNA to evolve, and then he evolves into Xenotyrannus, which is called Xenotyrannus Supremus, at a height of 200 meters, a length of 425 meters, a wingspan of 220 for a wingspan, and he's now 120,500 metric tons. And for abilities that are new is a red lightning from his horns and the apocalypse breath beam. Now, in terms of the design overall, similarly to Azazel, I'm just wondering why is there xenomorph references, because of course this is a Godzilla. This takes place in a Godzilla universe, or a universe with Godzilla. So what do these xenomorphs have to do with both of these characters, and how are xenomorphs interacting with the rest of the world as its own? Because pretty much xenomorphs, although are aliens, they're pretty much essentially alien zombies, because once one person's infected with a overmorph, chestburster pops out, xenomorph starts collecting more people, building a nest, getting a queen, and they spread like zombies or ants or any kind of creature that spreads a lot and kills things. So are xenomorphs like a kind of demon creature of some kind, possibly? The designs themselves are fine. I think probably the Neodiabolus form is my favorite. I like it overall. I think probably the extra arms, like the extra small pincer arms, is a little much. And the second mouth, of course, it's a xenomorph reference, but I'd say that if it was done, it could be done without, personally. And the rest of the two are very standard, kind of multi-limbed dragon-like creatures. Between the actual final Xenotyrannus and the Proto-Tyrannus, I'd say I prefer the Proto-Tyrannus form, but that's just me. Um, Overall, I'm actually just curious about this as well, is why do they have scientific names? Because what you're doing is you're melding science with magic, which when it comes to the idea of melding science with magic, you need to explain where does your magic stop and your science begins. Because there's obviously the quote that once science gets so far, it can be unrecognizable from magic. So, what can these science do, and what does the magic do? Why are these things given scientific names instead of some kind of mystical mumbo jumbo for a name? It's just you need to explain that who's naming what. That's all. That would be perfect because, personally, from my own experience, when I'm designing characters, the idea of the name of these characters, obviously, I'm the one who makes them, but in terms of an in universe explanation, usually it's either humans or another race gives them these names, and because of that, that's what allows them to have these names. And in the case of the Xenotyrannus, the three Xenotyrannuses, I assume it's a human scientist who probably gives them the names because it also talks about fossils resurrecting this. But being the fact that it's a demon, it's like science, magic, where does it stop? Where does it begin? Explanation needed. So now into my final verdict. Now, final thoughts on Azazel and Xenotyrannus. The characters in themselves, if you're doing it for fun, they aren't bad necessarily. Of course, you're inspired by Akira Toriyama's work with Dragon Ball Z. I love Dragon Ball Z too. A lot of what I do, I think of Dragon Ball Z when I think about it. But be cognizant of the fact that a lot of Toriyama's decisions in designing characters and ideas came out of the fact that he had no clue what he was doing and just went along with it. When you're designing characters and you want them to be taken seriously, I recommend that you take a lot of research, you look into things, you look into color theory, characterization, stuff like that. So I'd say just don't go back, don't scrap your characters, go back, think about it, do some research, ask people who like know their stuff. Like if you say, oh hey, I'm working on a demon character, is there anyone who knows a lot about theology who could be willing to help me make this character make more sense within a certain theology? Or hey, I need help making a magic system, could someone give me some pointers? Or hey, what's a good color scheme for a villainous character that isn't a standard black and red? Stuff like that. Of course, black and red. I said black and red, but black and red's not a bad. It's not necessarily bad. But when you want to make things unique and help them stand out and help you elevate as a artist or a creator of characters in general, I recommend that you take the time to do your research and just examine things on as deep a level as you can. And once that happens, and once you really take the time, everything just comes. And not everything you're going to think of is going to be perfect. Not everything I do is perfect. I've scrapped plenty of ideas and designs, and I usually stick with ideas. I'll think an idea is really good. I may do one design, I scrap that design, and I keep going at it. Even some of the art I do on my DeviantArt page, a lot of the characters that are on there right now, I just haven't uploaded new images of these characters because I thought, oh hey, this works better in my story, or I like this design better now, or I've just improved as an artist. Here is an updated version of the character. That's all. Just think about it, look at what you could do to improve, because you can always improve. We can all always improve. And I just am giving my opinions of what you can do to improve. And that's all, guys. I hope you enjoyed it, and stay tuned for my next videos. See ya.